In this video, I'll present a theory of how the consciousness evolved, how it evolved gradually through evolution. And what we are wondering about is how is it the case that the brain patterns in our brains, how did they get connected with the qualia or the conscious experience that they are connected to? So I have 5 claims or hypotheses, suggestions that I'm going to put together to a theory, and I'll explain some of the reasons to believe in these 5 and explain how they fit together. We start by number 1, saying that there are many qualia or conscious experience that we have not experienced. There are ways to manipulate input and to create new kinds of experiences. So I have you can do something to see new kinds of colors that I've tried myself. So for instance, one was supposed to see kind of orange that felt like black, and it did. It's difficult to explain because it's the first time I've seen that kind of color, but that's the best description I can give of it. Others have put magnets in their fingers or bodies and say that after a while they start having conscious experiences of magnet fields in their vicinity. And it seems that animals can have different kind of conscious experiences from us. Maybe they can see ultraviolet or infrared light. Maybe bats can have some conscious experience of echolocation, etc. So it seems then, and it would make good sense, if the kind of experience we have are just our brain tapping into a small potential of a much larger potential. Because it seems a bit unsystematic and strange. Why do we see exactly these colors and hear exactly these sounds and tastes and smells, etc.? And they seem to be, they come in degrees, and you can change, sometimes sliding one into another, like if you have a sound that gets deeper and deeper and darker, and after a while you don't know if you hear it or feel it. So there seems to be some variables, but that we have only touched or tapped into a few of those. So that's the first suggestion, that there's a lot more qualia than the ones we have experienced, but we have managed to, our brains have managed to hook onto a few of them. Second claim is that brains can turn many different physical patterns into qualia. And we know this, of course, that sound waves can hit the ear and the brain can turn that into conscious experiences of sound, or you can have waves of electromagnetic radiation that hits the eye and makes us see different kinds of color. And I mentioned this example then that you can also make the body have a conscious experience of magnet fields. And some interesting experiments they did in the 70s was that they put cameras on the head of people who were either blind or blindfolded. And then what the camera filmed was translated into a physical pattern that would people would experience then either on their back or on their tongue, this consistent pattern of what the cameras were recording. And so in the beginning they wouldn't see anything, but after a while they started having conscious experiences of seeing things, because the brain took this pattern on the back and turned it into conscious visual experiences. So they could start reading letters and catch a ball that was thrown at them, or one funny example was if the researchers would suddenly zoom in on their cameras, they would duck because they felt that something was being thrown at them. So this was then an example of how brains can meet new kinds of physical patterns and turn them into qualia. So if we take these 2 first claims then, that we have several reasons to believe, we can combine them into a start of a theory and say that, well, maybe early in evolution brains just randomly connected to all sorts of qualia with no system in it. So scratching could make you feel brown, or seeing a tiger could make you scratch, etc. So no, just chaotic. And of course we have no experience of such chaotic brains, but I think that's because it's first when you get the quite integrated, detailed conscious experience caused by the brain, that you also have this, that it gives you this experience of being an I or self that can have conscious experiences. So this would be brains where there was no I or no self, there were just a lot of randomly connected conscious experiences. But gradually then, some of those chaotic experiences could be some simple qualia that also were useful, like making a distinction between light and dark, or pain and pleasure, or mom and not mom, etc. which could then become gradually more complex and gradually more useful. So light and dark could turn into different colors, painful or good, could turn into different feelings. Just seeing the world as mom and not mom could be divided into more people and more things, etc. More detailed and nuanced. And we have some evidence also for the belief that maybe brains can add on new conscious experiences later. I did give the example of magnets and cameras on the eyes, but it seems also that early in history people didn't have a conscious experience of blue. That's at least a possible explanation of why in old text we see that they never used the term blue. They just call the sky and the ocean and things we are used to calling blue, they call dark and green and black, etc. And we know that there are some tribes which things we are used to in Western countries seeing as different colors, they see no difference between them, but they can have they can see differences that we can't see. So I've seen that as well. 10 yellow colors, I saw no difference between them, but they could all pick out the one that was different from the others. So yet some more evidence then that we could have this gradual evolution of the brain seeing more and more, having more and more conscious experiences. And we've seen, that's number 5, we've seen how there are specific feature detecting neurons that are specializes on detecting certain features out in the world that they become activated by, and when they are activated several times they can restore the images that they represent in their brain, in the brain. So there's a lot of things I have not explained now about the causal role, about how the connection works in detail, the technical connection between a physical brain and consciousness, and I'll get to that in later videos. But now I'm just starting to present this part then of a theory of how consciousness could evolve, which is in many ways similar to how one usually thinks about it, going from simple to complex, but with this difference in my theory that it was chaotic in the start, and it would just start connecting to random conscious experiences first, and then out of this random chaos, evolution could select then some useful connections. But how that works, we'll get to quite soon.